All right. Well, let's get going here because we got a big day ahead of us. I know we had a break in there. We're gonna let everybody work their way back in. I don't want to have to bring out my old classroom management skills here, so everybody take your seat, please. Well, let's give a big round of applause. Jim Sarno is here. Disney Imagineer, sculptor, overall nice guy. If you meet Jim, I love talking to Jim. He's so nice, he's so happy, he's friendly. Did I miss anything in there?
No, I always say I work at that. It doesn't come natural.
Okay. Well, we're going to get into this because Jim sort of had his hand on many different things. And I'm noticing a trend here with EPCOT in general. It seems like if you could do this, you were picked to do that, that, and that. It wasn't just one person doing one thing. And I do have another thought of, we saw those pictures, we talked about what it looked like 3 months before park opening and how it still looks like that now. If we've simplified the whole process now, how come it still takes so long? You got Steve making a one-box solution, and I don't know. Anyways, so Jim is here to talk about all things that he did with EPCOT, but we're going to get a little history before that. There we go.
Okay, so my first job was with Sid and Marty Krofft, and Ken Forsey was my boss. He's holding Teddy Ruxpin, Grubby, and the little caterpillar was my first job. I went in, he gave me supplies, he said, "Here's your office." I'm right out of college, I'm thinking, office and supplies? I didn't know what I was doing. I sat there, lunchtime came, I went home, I thought, maybe I should never go back. But I went back, sculpted this little caterpillar. The next thing he said, "You're just what we needed." There was the job, and he had worked on Country Bear Jamboree. So he knew I wanted to get to Disney, set up an interview with Bob Sewell, who was the manager of the model shop, and there I sat waiting to get a call because they said once we sign the interview or the contract with Tokyo, they're gonna bring me in. It didn't happen. So I went on to the Flintstones, Hanna-Barbera. You see Fred? Hands up if you didn't get enough sleep last night. But here I am in Marineland with Yogi and my older sister, Judy. My younger sister, Jean, came with me again this time. So the Italian family always supports each other. But at Hanna-Barbera, I learned how to do the characters. So you see Fred and Barney on the bottom and all the cast of characters. My job was to make the plastic neoprene insides of the body that they would put fur and foam over to go walk around in the parks. So when I saw the parade over at Magic Kingdom and I saw those furry bears, I said, they're dying in there. But this is how it happened. And this led me to my interview for real with getting into WED. Now, these are the people that influenced me. Of course, Harriet's right in the center there with Walt Disney. First female Imagineer. And I think most of you know about the book we did about her life. So these were all of the employees that worked with her family and everybody that worked with her in the shop. Stories on top of stories about working with Harriet and her funny humor. So Walt Paragoy is on the right and also on the left. He's on the phone. And I was introduced to Walt Paragoy and Rolly Crump down on the bottom by RetroMagic. And my first job was in Mapo, and that was making body parts because of the Flintstones. So I snuck over to the model shop where Maggie Elliott was. She liked my portfolio, and I've actually brought it so you can see it. I'll be in the room next door. And she said, "We want to hire you." She says, "Where are you working?" I said, "Mapo." She says, "We can't touch you, you're union." So I went back thinking I'm making body parts out of fiberglass. If you've ever done that, your arms are dying with little needles. I said, if my boss, Rick Golding, asked me again, I'm going to tell him the truth. I said, Rick, I love the job, but Maggie wants to hire me. She can't do it because I'm union. He said, come with me. Went up in his office. He made a phone call. He said, don't tell anybody. You report on Monday over the model shop. So it was like a miracle. I mean, once I got in, who knew I could get over to the model shop where I wanted to be? Back 1 minute.
Okay, go ahead. You
Fred,
keep going. Keep
okay,
going. Yeah.
Fred Jerger was in that picture as well, and Fred Jerger had sat right next to Maggie Elliott. Maggie Elliott, not the right person. Harriet Burns was in the corner. So when Fred moved out of that booth, I was in there. We had the whole model of EPCOT in there. And she brought me up to Rolly and Walt and said, you're going to work on this big project, and you meet with them. It was that fountain in Land Pavilion. I came out of the meeting, I said, what are you thinking? I just started here, and you've got me with these two great designers doing this huge project. She said, well, you told me you could do it, so let's see what happens. So she didn't get the last word because I did work on it. Blaine Gibson, who was in the last shot, he was the sculptor and said, why is Jim in the model shop doing a sculpture project that I should be overseeing? He said, I'll let it happen if you let me look over Jim and see what he's doing. So he actually gave me one of his sculpting tools, and I had him sign it here, but this is what sculpted that fountain in Land Pavilion.
That's awesome.
You see, we have the maquette, which is the small version done in foam, and that's the pink one. The day we presented it to Marty Sklar and John Hench, they didn't like the top that Walt had designed, and I sculpted it. They said, we need this approved by tomorrow. I said, Walt's not here. They said, do whatever you can. So the one by RetroMagic is the one I did in my bathroom with the curtain closed, sculpting foam, probably using this, and getting it done to present the next day. They said, that's perfect. Use that top. When Walt came back, he almost flipped out. But we got along so well, there was no problem. What he didn't know, or many people didn't know, was my name sculpted across the fountain. So you see it in blue and black, but the blue is where I designed SARNO in the fish panel. I heard the first day I went there, we've heard the artist sculpted his name, but we don't know where. And I thought, I could go right over and tell him. I said, I'm not saying a word. Stayed there the whole time. Maybe that's why they took it out. That name shouldn't have been there. And they didn't want to send me on location to have the full size put in and installed and oversee it. I said, Maggie, I've been on this from the minute it started. Well, we don't have a commercial flight. She says, you'll have to go on the Mouse tomorrow. So, of course, on the Mouse, and Jean, my sister here, took me to the Burbank airport, and there was the jet with Mickey on the tail. And I said, what is this? And so here you see the interior flying there to Fort Wilderness, which was mentioned earlier, and you were in a log cabin. So that's the picture up on the top. The canoe picture, and JT and I talked about this, I said I actually got in a canoe every day, hard hat, drawings, and I rowed over to EPCOT. Yeah, you'll be wondering what's in here, but I'll share with you. My job was to row over it. JT says there's no river that goes from Fort Wilderness to EPCOT.
We did some digging, and we found the old, basically, aerial maps from that time period. And if you look now on your phones while you're out here, you can't really see because there's like, I think it's World Drive right over it. But I mean, Bonnet Creek comes right there, and it probably took you a half hour at least. But
to me, it was like, what a way to go to work in a canoe.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So it worked out well, and then working, trying to get it installed, and of course I wanted that panel with the fish right at the top, you know, where you come up the escalators and you get into the top of it. I wanted Sarno right in the front, and the construction guy says, what is wrong with you? I said, look, it must be turned 3 feet more this way. So it ended up there. Nice.
Now you're buddy.
Yes, now Smart One. I'm looking, seeing, well, you see the pictures of me in two corners there, working on the entrance to Spaceship Earth. Richard and I talked about it, and he said, that was a nightmare. He says, I turned that over to somebody else. But this is how it worked in the model shop. You'd go on to one project, you'd work a few months, they'd put you on something else. I did some of the props with Christopher Columbus that's out of the ride now, and the Trojan horse. There were a few other props that were done in the Tahunga facility, and I got to work on doing that, and very exciting. Then moved on to Smart One, which was bumping into George McGinnis in the hallway. And we were talking earlier about you did not say no to anybody. He had a paper napkin, like cocktail napkin. He drew Smart One purple. He said, can you do this? I said, sure I can. I left and thought, what am I saying? I went after work to the hardware store, bought sewer pipes, buttons for drawers, went back the next day, cut it all up, and Smart One appeared within days. So it worked out pretty well. Fun and games in the model shop. So the middle picture is great. It's a very scaled down model with the lagoon open. And you can see me because of the mustache that shows up. And Harriet is right in front of me there. Joe Rohde's on the side over there. And Trevor mentioned he never got in these pictures. So I think we need to cut you and put you in there. There was so much fun. You see me with my mouth in an alligator and the elephant with the tail. And then I found this picture of Walt Disney playing with the elephants out in the parking lot too. So it was fun on top of fun. It was like working with your best friends. And when I see those pictures of how fast this happened, it was amazing. But it happened fast. Here is Listen to the Land. And in this box, I have all kinds of goodies. But there's Harriet painting the background. I'm painting part of it. And then most of it was done with this thin plastic that we used heat guns on. We cut it out with an X-Acto blade and then twist them into branches. So we did this to Listen to the Land. You see the one right under land, that greenish yellow slide? That has a giant bug in it. They said, when we get to how it looks in the full size, you can't have a 10-foot bug. You'll freak the people out. So the bug came out. But the rest of it is how we built this, and then into 10, 20 feet pieces. It was pretty wonderful. In this box, I have a lot of goodies of actual model building. So if you want to come out and see them, you can look at them up close. Wonders of Life. Actually, the middle picture with the rocks and the trees was designed by Walt Paraguay along with the family, the mother, father, and the baby. That was going to be the entrance to Wonder of Life. And they went with a different route with the DNA twist. And this is how many of the things happened. You design something from the head designer, build it in scale in the model shop, and if they went with it, great. And if not, it might have gone 2 or 3 times before they finalized what they ended up with. And Frank Armitage oversaw a lot of this. So I did body parts out of plastic that were to be in the ride. So you never knew where you were going to be. One day Maggie could send you here, you'd be there for a week, a month, maybe a year, and then the next thing you know, you're on another project. But
did you ever see the finished Wonders of Life? Did you ever go in there?
I went in there and did not see the parts that I'd made, and I said, well, did I get here late? Did they move them? We went to EPCOT yesterday, or Friday actually. You need a week to see EPCOT. And we got to a few things. Guardians of the Galaxy. I know that's the latest ride. We had no idea what we're getting into.
It's very Epcot-y, right? Yes.
Oh, yeah. As soon as we started backwards, I knew we were in trouble. Now, imagination. And I saw it, and I said, well, not going to talk about what it is today. What it was when it opened was amazing. And Walt Paraguay, who I worked with very closely, did a lot of the design, the paintings, things you see in there. And I'm up in the corner cutting this, it was like a rubber mask out of plastic, very similar to the leaf plastic. And then we developed the carousel. All of this was in white plastic. And then you can see in the very center of this is color lit gels. Whole thing was white. It was in a black room, and Walt had designed rides where the ride car was about at this height. And so when you walked through the model, you could see just what the guests would be seeing. And so all of it was done in colored gels and turned out beautiful. But they moved on. Now, those pictures we just saw in the last presentation of seeing EPCOT, and one of my last projects, Maggie said, build us a yellow crane to scale. And I actually have. Somebody said, you kept all these things? I said, hey, this is once in a lifetime. I'm keeping them. This little scale model of a crane. And we had a joke in the, I was going to say clubhouse, in the model shop. If they gave you trees to make, you were going to be out in a week. That was your departure project. I said, cranes must mean you're going in days. So I wasn't too pleased doing it, but when I got there on location and saw the state of what things were, I said, how is this going to happen? And now I get why they had me make this crane. They needed to know where it could go, how high, how far, and this is how Walt Disney designed. He didn't draw it up and then make it. He wanted models built so every detail could let you know what the actual show would end up being. So it was pretty wonderful.
And then you just were able to wander around EPCOT under construction. Like,
yeah, when I saw those pictures a few months before, and I'm not sure the timing of this picture, but you looked around and they had signs for us everywhere, and it used to say, you can do it. When it finished, we did it. And the project was so intense, none of us thought we could make it. But it was a party, and everybody was having a good time, and as crazy as it was, we made it happen. So, just in time to be able to share with you this book. How many of you know Walt's People, the series? Didier Guez has written many, many books, but he interviews Disney employees, stories, who you worked with, who you met, and the interview goes on for maybe 2 to 4 hours. And then it's transcribed by Julie Swenson, who we wish were here, but someday she'll get here. And I ended up, 4 years later, I'm in this next volume, 28. So it's available on Amazon, and I'm thrilled to be in this book. It's the who's who of Disney.
All right, well, good info there if you want to contact Jim. He's going to be out in the Centorium here. I did want to add one thing, though. We've had Jim a number of times. We love his stories and that, and I reached out to Jim. Me growing up, I always got from my mom, who's here, every year for my birthday, like a little figurine. Grew up as I did. And I had this idea. I called Jim and I said, can you make me something like that for my son? So my son has every year from Jim a little sculpted thing for every year. So, and I think someday it'll actually matter to him because he gets something from a Disney Imagineer literally on his shelf every year for his birthday. But nicest guy you'll meet, Jim Sarno here. Thank you so much. I did want to say, though, before we go, stay in your seat because we're going to move right into the next one. It says break. We moved that, so we're going to get moving here because we got to make up some time. But again, Jim Sarno, thank you, everybody, for joining. Thank you.